Secretly trading with aliens, exchanging citizens' lives for power and technology, is undoubtedly one of the wildest urban legends out there. But guess what? Investigators found that this story might not be entirely made up. On the night of the 20th of February, 1954, then U.S. President Eisenhower vanished from the Palm Springs Hotel. Initially, the Associated Press reported that Eisenhower had died from a heart attack. But just minutes later, they called another press conference, saying the president was alive and well, just missing a tooth, and rushed to the dentist, hence the loss of contact. At first glance, it seemed plausible, but some investigators discovered that the dentist in question didn't exist, and there was no record of that dental visit in the medical files. Just as rumors were flying, a shocking one emerged. Eisenhower didn't go to the dentist that night. Instead, he attended a top-secret meeting at Edwards Air Force Base. It's said that, besides humans, an alien race from afar also attended. On the evening of the 20th of February, 1954, Edwards Base was heavily guarded, with soldiers patrolling everywhere, no ID badges or shoulder patches in sight. In a remote hangar, over a dozen people, including Eisenhower, top scientists, senior military officers, and prominent politicians, waited anxiously. Early in the morning, 2 light spots appeared above the base. As they descended, a circular flying object with an ultra-smooth surface, no rivets, and no seams emerged. The air around it started to warp and ripple, like heat waves rising from the ground in summer. Under the tense and expectant gaze of the crowd, a door opened on the flying object, and with blinding light, a creature stepped out. This creature looked similar to humans, tall and slender, with pale skin, golden hair, and wearing a simple silver jumpsuit. The military called them the Nordics, and they communicated with the attendees not through speech but telepathy. They said they'd come to make a deal with humanity, a fair exchange. They offered unimaginable technologies, unlimited clean energy, the ability to cure all diseases, and significantly extended lifespans. They promised these technologies would usher in a utopian era free from hunger, poverty, and war. Sounds amazing, right? But their help came with conditions. To the Nordics, this condition was almost negligible, but the American elite didn't see it that way. The condition was to abandon and destroy all nuclear weapons. The Nordics believed that humans with nuclear weapons were like babies with loaded guns, bound to hurt themselves or even bring about their own destruction. Plus, the Nordics warned of another evil, greedy alien race on Earth, parasitizing on chosen civilizations, ultimately disintegrating and devouring them. They said this alien race would offer advanced technologies, but also something the Nordics would never give Earth: weapons, marking the beginning of human self-destruction. So, the Nordics warned Eisenhower not to contact this alien race or accept any of their demands. After the meeting, the Nordics left, and Eisenhower and the others dispersed. But no matter how secretive, information always leaks. 2 months later, on the 16th of April, 1954, investigator Gerald Wright went public with the meeting in a letter describing what he saw at Edwards Air Force Base. He said he went as part of a community leader delegation to interact with aliens, testing the public's reaction to their existence. During his 2-day visit, he saw 5 different types of aircraft and Air Force officers operating and researching under Nordic guidance. In his letter, Wright excitedly mentioned that the Eisenhower administration was preparing an official statement to announce the Nordics' existence and their communication with humanity via radio and TV in May. But as we know, the U.S. never made that statement. Moreover, shortly after Wright's letter went public, all base visitors, including Wright, were warned by men in black suits not to discuss the matter anywhere with anyone. Thus, this event, crucial to humanity's future, was completely buried. At the same time, another group of aliens, similar to the Nordics' description, appeared. They landed in the same place at the same time, but with dark gray spacecraft emitting a strong sense of aggression reminiscent of war. Although their spacecraft had landed, no aliens emerged. The people present heard a voice, indicating telepathic communication, but this voice lacked the warmth of the Nordics, only indifference and coldness. They invited Eisenhower and his team into the spacecraft in a commanding tone. After some hesitation, they complied. Inside, They found the spacecraft's interior matched its exterior, seamless and rivet-free. The silver-gray walls and floor were smooth and well lit, though no obvious light source was visible. They also noticed ripple-like deformations on the walls and floor, making them feel like they were inside a living organism rather than a cold machine. Following the sound, they entered a hall where several creatures waited. These creatures were about 1.2 meters tall, with dark gray skin, large skulls, and big black eyes. They had slender limbs and long fingers, giving off an indescribable stiffness and mechanical vibe. At that time, Eisenhower and the others didn't know what to call these creatures. Now, we call them Greys. The Greys had been secretly observing humans for a long time and knew a lot. They agreed with the Nordics on one point: humanity was on the brink of self-destruction and might soon face a catastrophic disaster. They claimed they could provide the U.S. with advanced technologies surpassing those of other countries, like particle beam weapons, stealth tech, and anti-gravity tech. With these, the U.S. would not only win the Cold War, but also solidify its position as the world's hegemon. The catch? Simply grant the Greys licenses to establish underground bases or hidden facilities in the U.S. and invite American citizens to participate in biological research. They promised to conduct experiments during the subjects' deep sleep, causing no pain, and erase their memories afterward. To ensure transparency, the U.S. government would receive a complete list of all invited or abducted individuals in advance to confirm their safety later. At that time, Eisenhower faced two starkly different choices: accept the Nordics' offer to abandon nuclear weapons for world peace, or support the Greys to achieve American hegemony through technology. Imagine if you were in his shoes. Personally, I'd choose world peace. But for Eisenhower, it was a no-brainer, almost like a giveaway question. With the Cold War escalating and Soviet nukes threatening the U.S. mainland, he quickly decided to cooperate. Simply put, this collaboration involved no signed documents, handshakes, or photos, just telepathic communication. The U.S. got advanced tech, and the Greys were banned from building underground bases. Both sides were satisfied, and the agreement was dubbed the Glastonbury Treaty. Soon, the Greys used their tech to establish many underground bases in the U.S., the largest, most secretive, and most important one near Dulce, New Mexico. The base had 7 levels, with confidentiality increasing as you went deeper. The 7th floor, known as the Nightmare Hall, was where the invited were abused, observed, and researched like lab rats by the Greys. This made Eisenhower and the others realize the Greys had violated the agreement and the Gretna Treaty. But by then, it was too late to stop these atrocities without exposing the whole truth. More importantly, if the truth came out, their act of exchanging ordinary lives for power and status would bring them catastrophic consequences. Although these high-ranking officials dared not reveal the truth, others weren't so silent. Phil Schneider, a structural engineer with high-level security clearance, worked for Morrison Knudsen, the largest civil engineering and construction company in the U.S., in 1979. He was hired to dig deep wells for a military underground base in Dulce. During drilling, they accidentally hit an area not in the plans. There, he found a densely packed incubation chamber with not only Greys, but also many humans, men, women, elderly, and children, all in a state of shattered souls. A battle erupted. Schneider killed an alien with his handgun but was hit by a plasma weapon, losing 2 fingers and part of his left hand. If not for a beret-wearing soldier dragging him up the elevator, he would have joined the 66 others who died in battle, sleeping forever underground. William Cooper, once in the U.S. Navy intelligence, accidentally discovered the Gretna Treaty and its details, just like Schneider. But Cooper knew something Schneider didn't. For instance, on a February evening in 1955, about 300 people witnessed the same phenomenon at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. Shortly after Air Force One landed, 3 disc-shaped objects appeared in the sky. One landed 60 meters from the plane, one hovered above, and the other flew across the sky and disappeared. Witnesses saw the door of Air Force One open, and out stepped none other than U.S. President Eisenhower. He walked quickly to the disc-shaped craft, shook hands with the beings inside, and entered. In Cooper's view, this wasn't a secret, especially with hundreds of witnesses. But apart from him, no one dared to reveal the truth, perhaps fearing a fate similar to Cooper and Schneider, whose endings were grim and strange. For example, Schneider repeatedly told his family he'd never commit suicide. If he died suddenly, it must be murder. Unfortunately, his prophecy came true. A few months later, on the 17th of January 1996, his body was found in an apartment. Despite a tube around his neck, authorities insisted it was suicide, meaning he strangled himself. An ironic conclusion, treating him like a fool. Cooper claimed to be monitored after revealing sensitive info. In June 2001, he announced on radio he might face murder, and sadly, his prophecy came true. On the 5th of November 2001, Cooper was shot dead by police at his home in Eagar, Arizona, for allegedly assaulting an officer. True? Given Schneider and Cooper were the main whistleblowers of the Gretna Treaty, their deaths do raise questions about its authenticity. I don't know, but I've found some intriguing details that might shed light indirectly. For instance, since 1950, there's been a global wave of UFO sightings, many by reliable military personnel. Also, most recorded alien abductions occurred after 1954, after the Gretna Treaty took effect. The investigator Wright mentioned earlier revealed a meeting between Eisenhower and the Nordics in a letter. The letter also mentioned several important figures present, including Norris, former chief economic advisor of the Truman administration, and a decision-making member of the Brookings Institution. A few years after the Gretna Treaty, the Brookings Institution released the Brookings Report, exploring space exploration's impact on society. One paragraph, though brief, was profound, stating that discovering extraterrestrial intelligent life might trigger violent social unrest. What does this mean? Does it imply U.S. high-level would cover up contact or cooperation with extraterrestrials to prevent social unrest? It's worth pondering. Lastly, a crucial detail about the Gretna Treaty. On the evening of the 20th of February, 1954, Eisenhower mysteriously disappeared from the Palm Springs Hotel. The official story was he went to the dentist, and later the White House named the dentist Francis Purcell, a well-known dentist in Palm Springs. But here's the thing. Although every medical issue during the president's tenure was meticulously recorded, investigators couldn't find any record of Eisenhower's dental treatment in February 1954, which is highly unusual. The only explanation? He had a secret schedule that night, and the dentist visit was a cover-up. This makes the Gretna Treaty urban legend particularly thought-provoking. Do you think this sci-fi-like plot really happened? Or does the Gretna Treaty urban legend hold some credibility? Share your thoughts.